We're live. Oh, good. It is Friday. I've got my black coffee, which is pretty much the only thing I drink till about 1 o'clock-ish. I do this 18-6 eating. So I eat in a 6-hour window, typically from 1-ish till about 7-ish. So, 1 till 7, 1:30 till 7:30, something like that. And then the other time, the 18 hours, I don't eat anything and I just drink either water or black coffee or green tea. Fundamentally, things that do not give me an insulin response. So they're not likely to cause an insulin spike in my body. So it's mimicking as much as possible long-term fasting. And certainly, if you haven't done it, I would suggest give it a go. I've certainly noticed some major benefits from it in terms of health, managing weight. Certainly I can very easily add weight. I was just talking to somebody earlier. I had a call between 9 and 10 this morning with a private coaching client. So we were talking about all manner of things, particularly related to his business, but also we had a bit of a catch up. He's managed to lose 3 stone over the last X number of months. I can't remember how many months now, but really good achievement. So we were talking about that. I was talking about how, when I put on weight, I don't know about you, but for me at this stage of my life, it tends to go around my waist and on my boobs. So, I can tell as soon as I look in the mirror if I'm eating in the wrong direction or I'm eating in the right direction. Anyway, so actually something that came up, I thought I'd talk about this. 3 areas of really growing any kind of online business in very simple terms: skills, strategy, and self-confidence. So if you think of it in terms of 3 S's, that will be an easy way for you to memorize it. Or if you're taking notes, just write down the 3 things: skills, strategy, self-confidence. Actually, talking to my client this morning, what I noticed was not so much from these are the skills or tactics that he needs, but more from a learning how to manage both the way he thinks, most importantly, and therefore through that manage his time. Like all of his problems we talked about this morning could not be ultimately solved, but could be addressed through changing how he manages himself and how he manages his day. So, somebody, for example, who is in a situation where they get a lot of calls each day or they get a lot of people wanting their time each day, you got to set boundaries on that. You cannot let other people steal your time. And you most definitely need to make time for yourself each day. Most of the ideas, where do ideas come from? Well, I can tell you where they don't come from to begin with. Like they don't come when I am stressed out or when I am just trying to troubleshoot, catch up, deal with the flood or the fire that's coming in. They never happen at that time. Ideas for me come in when I'm in reflective time, when I'm in relaxed time, when I'm relaxed doing something else, and all of a sudden I have an idea pop in my head. So that's important to make sure that in your day, and I would suggest at the start of your day, and I'd ideally start and end, but if you had to pick one, the start of the day, where you can just sit down by yourself. I mean, I've talked about this before. I'm a huge fan of journaling. Sit down with your journal and just write. It doesn't matter what you write, or even if you stare at a blank page for 10 minutes, just put something down. Because the act of writing, one, forces you to slow down your mental speed. So in other words, you're giving your mind and therefore your body a chance to breathe, to pause. It's like if you've heard of agile project management or this concept of a sprint within a project management, a sprint lasts for a week, max 2 weeks at the absolute outside. Nobody sprints for 52 weeks a year because it's impossible. You would literally just collapse. You would just lose all your energy. You'd have no new ideas, no focus. You wouldn't actually be making any progress. It's just would be too much of a strain on your mental system, too much of a strain on your body. So a sprint is something you can do. You can, but even within a sprint, like if I've got a project on and I know I want to get something absolutely nailed and I give myself 5 days to get it done, then even within that 5 days, first thing in the morning, I'm going to take the time to reflect. I'm going to take the time to write in my journal so that I'm giving myself the best chance of being in the performance zone. That makes sense? It's kind of like a term I'm borrowing from martial arts. But in martial arts, for example, and you can measure this with heart rate. Because obviously, if you train a martial art, in training is very different to being in a situation where your life is being threatened. because obviously emotionally, psychologically, very, very different. And so what has been known is that if you don't train to allow yourself to maintain a certain heart rate, so there's like a ceiling and a floor to this. If you go outside of that, if you drop below it, you're too relaxed and you don't do anything. If you go above it, then actually what happens is your ability to control your functions, your sort of legs, your arms start to deteriorate. And certainly under stress, anything which requires fine motor skills just goes out the window. That's why most self-defense kind of classes deal in big moves, because that's really all you're going to do if you're under stress. So you got to stay in this performance zone. If you're a competitive fighter, like a mixed martial artist, they have to stay in a performance zone that allows them to have more control over those fine motor skills. And so they train not just for technique, but they train in their mind to make sure they can stay in that zone all the time. And that's true for you, true for me. So in terms of getting stuff done during the week, ending the week and saying, okay, look, I got things nailed. I made real progress rather than just being busy for the week and actually nothing happening. Then you want to make sure you stay in the performance zone. Best way to do that, make sure you have a morning routine, something to start your day with, where you are beginning the day, where you are reflecting. You're kind of going internal in order to be able to come outside. So there's that, meditation, for example. You close your eyes, you go internal. And that opportunity to allow the chatter to shut up, to allow your whole body to relax, to be able to focus on your breathing and breathe deeply. When you've done that, you're now better able, when you come out of that, and it could be 5 minutes, could be 10 minutes, 20 minutes ideally, you come out of that, now you can take on the day much better. You can get more productive work done in the day than if you hadn't taken the time to start your day by being reflective. Does that make sense? Actually, again, going back to martial arts, like, I did traditional Japanese Shotokan karate, and in the dojo that I trained, the session would start with what's called the dojo kun, which is really a list of, if you like, values in sentence form of what we represent and how we train in the dojo. And within that, you would literally, the person leading the class, there's the most senior person in the class other than the instructors. You got the instructor at the front, the most senior student, that'd be the best way to describe it. The most senior student would read out the dojo kun. And then, so they'd read a line, we'd all respond just to acknowledge it, and then we go through it. And then there'd be this thing, and in Japanese you say motsu, which just means close your eyes. So it's literally that 2 minutes of calm, ready for the storm. But you are better prepared for the demands of the class because you take the time to actually reflect. So just something to think about in terms of, if you're not making the progress you want, then it's either skill set, strategy, or mindset wise, you're not in the performance zone. So you might have all the skills, but you're not applying them. You might have the right strategy, but you're not implementing it, and you're not implementing it fast enough to actually make a difference to your sales, because you're not making time for you to recognize you're a human being, not a robot, and that you need to actually give yourself the opportunity to develop the skills, the strategy to perform. And I think that's a big key thing. I see that a lot. It's like information by itself is never enough. We know that. You know that. People chase information. People chase more information because they think they haven't got enough. But it's all driven by this belief that the information you've got isn't enough, even though it probably is. And therefore you go chasing more information. And therefore you go chasing more information. It's like, well, stop chasing the information. Just apply what you've already got. And the best way to do that is to develop the ability to put yourself in a performance zone and develop the ability to manage your time and manage your progress. It's like a lot of these things. There's a reason that project management exists. Like as a skill set, it exists. Why? Because it's necessary. You are ultimately, I remember, I think it was Rich Sheffrin said many years ago, most of us as entrepreneurs are untrained project managers. So that's true. There's an element of learn enough to be able to apply what you need to apply. So what have I been doing this week? Well, certainly managing the few clients that I have, private clients that I have. And that's been interesting. We're back to some of the same things get repeated. It's like I need videos from them, and getting videos from them isn't always that straightforward or that easy. It's like, here's what we need. Get it across to me. Then I can do something with it. On that point, though, video, very powerful. I think, this is just reiterating stuff, but I saw something this week, which I'd seen before as a study, but it was a good reminder that most people who make a purchase, certainly of information products, have watched a video first. So if you're not using video in your marketing, then you are most definitely leaving money on the table. And more importantly, not just money on the table today, but you're leaving money on the table for tomorrow and next week, next month, and next year, because the relationships you can build in terms of trust that you can get through video, you can't get with the written word. So written word, obviously powerful, has its place. Video, massively important. And as we move into, this whole thing with Apple and the iOS, then I would say the ability to do video like I'm doing a live now. So, there's dual purposes. One, it's a good opportunity for me to kind of just talk about stuff that pops up and some ideas will come out of it, hopefully. But also, I get to use this video. So I can use this on Facebook's advertising platform. And I can then build retargeting audiences from the people that engage with it. So, and even with Apple's iOS, as that comes out, really the Apple iOS is really what they're going to do is they're going to stop sending information back to Facebook. But if I've got a video like this one and I use this in an advertising campaign on Facebook, it's all on Facebook. So they can still collect data because it's their platform. They're not relying on a third party blocking them from collecting data on their own platforms. Does that make sense? So even more important to be focused on building know, like, trust, and be using video to do that. So nothing for sale in this, nothing that you're promoting. There's no offer at the end of this video, but just the ability to kind of put yourself out there and let people get an idea of who you are. I don't think it's ever been more important to give people, your potential prospects, an insight into you as a human being. I don't think it's ever been more important, because we got to that place where tactics have their place, but they become less effective the more people use them, so they always get diluted. But then within that, how do people then make a choice? Like I've always said, like, how do people make a buying decision? And oftentimes, particularly now, because everything's saturated, people make a buying decision based on whether they like you or not, whether they feel that they trust you or not, whether they feel they got a bond with you or not, whether their personality resonates with you. You could have literally at this point in time, because the marketplace is so big, you could have, let's say, 50 people all offering exactly the same thing. And if you look at their offers, they might be you could literally copy one offer to the next person and be exactly the same offer, same material, same offer. But they could all be very successful because they all attract a different person. In other words, there'll be one set of the marketplace that likes person A, another set of the marketplace that prefers person B, and so on and so on and so on. So it's never been more important to get on video. It's never been more important to be seen and get yourself out there and build your visibility using video. Let people get to know you. Let people build that level of trust with you, that bond with you. And I would say make that a primary focus. In psychology, if you look at, I forget the name of the book now, it's a great book on cults. And I think it was written back in the 80s. I'll have to dig it out and see if I can remember the title of it. But in there, he talks about some of the tactics and strategies that cults would use. And within there's some stuff which is just basic kind of psychology in terms of working with any other human being. But a lot of it is based around this idea of believe, belong, bond. So if somebody believes in what you're doing, and all human beings want a sense of belonging. So if they believe in what you're doing, particularly if it gives them a bigger sense of purpose, if they feel they belong to a community of like-minded people that is distinct from the rest of the world, because people think in terms of contrast. So people join a cult, they somehow feel that they belong to a very special group of people. It's not like I belong to a group of people. It's always I belong to a special group of people that somehow gives them that feeling of significance, feeling of connection that they wouldn't get outside of that group. So they literally learn to view people. And this was in the book. They literally learn to view the group members, the cult, and then there's the rest of the world. And that's it. It's that black and white. It's not there's this group, there's that group, there's another group. Whereas like not being in a cult means I'm part of this group, but I can also be part of that group as well and part of that group as well. Like, I have martial arts friends. That's one group of community that I belong to. I have entrepreneurial friends. That's another group that I belong to. And there is a little bit of overlap between people in both groups who share similar interests, but not much, but they're separate groups. So there's a sense of belonging in both of those groups. And then if there's a bonding, then obviously they now bond to a leader typically. And obviously from your marketing campaigns, that wants to be you, which brings us back to what I talked about last week, this whole idea of much easier to do personality branding, personality marketing. People remember you as a personality long before they remember your logo. So bear that in mind. All right. So this has been, I've got this thing that I just think I should start a live and just talk and see what pops in my head. And if I get to a point where nothing's popping in my head, then I'll probably end the live sooner. If I get to a point where I think I've got more to say, I'll just continue it. It would be, actually, I'll tell you what I have been focused on this week in my ramblings is lead generation. So going back to same principles. Mentioned it last week, so let me repeat it this week because repetition is the mother of skill. Top of funnel, middle of funnel, bottom of funnel. Great way to think about all of your marketing. 3 chunks, easy to remember. Same as Dora the Explorer, always 3 chunks. So 3 chunks, top of funnel, obviously is all about know, like, trust. And again, using video in that respect, great way to do it. Middle of the funnel is then, and there is some overlap between middle and bottom. Middle of funnel is now starting to turn that visibility into qualified leads. So easiest way to do that is to offer people something in return for their email address, ultimately, or in return for just kind of collecting them into another group. So on Facebook, you could give them a reason to join your Facebook group. That's one way of kind of collecting people. You can do both. You can give people a reason to give you their email address and also invite them into a group. But for me this week, what I've been focused on was I had this idea that if I am more focused on promoting courses, then it makes sense to attract people that are interested in courses. So therefore, what would be a great lead magnet would be a course in its own right. So I've been working this week on a free course where I've kind of laid out, and working title at the moment is the Freedom Map. So that'll be available over the next few days. So if you want to go through that yourself or get access to it, just leave me a comment below. I'll make sure you get an email, or I'll make sure I post a link somewhere where you can access it. But basically, it's the Freedom Map. So what I'm doing is I'm laying out the whole path from nothing to having an online business that kind of gives you a full-time income. So I'm laying it all out. So in the sense of, this is your project map. This is everything you need to know from start to finish of what you need to understand. And then within that, of course, a highlight, like literally the idea is to put someone on the right path. Because of course, there's no way that in a short training that's free, that they're going to master all the skills that they're going to need. But at least if they know the skills they're going to need, they can start moving down that path properly. And that's the idea behind it. So I've been working on that and laying out the slides for it. I'll be finishing the recordings over the next few days and get that live, certainly before the end of this coming weekend as I'm recording this. And then that'll be available. So that'll be my lead magnet. Now, on the back of that, of course, now we start a funnel. So now we're into the funnel, which ties back to what I've said before. And again, I'm going to keep repeating these things because they are both, I think maybe if they're repeated too often, they become trite, but they're still very true, which is that most people do not have a lead generation problem. You can buy leads all over the place. Facebook, Google, Pinterest, anywhere. I mean, they're all over the place. What you have is a conversion problem. In other words, can you take that lead and generate the lead overall at a profit so that you're liquidating your advertising costs, you're liquidating your acquisition costs, which means your funnel. So in your funnel, can you then, so I'm going to be offering my free training, and then on the back of that, I will immediately offer a paid training. And of course, then you got the whole thing of order bumps, upsells, downsells. So I'll be testing all sorts of different things within there. And again, that's exactly what I've been talking to my clients this week. It's like, okay, this is what you've got. This is what you've been doing. This is what I need from you. And then this is where I need to start thinking. So I'll tell them, look, we need to start thinking about ideas for what other smaller products can you put together easily that solve an urgent problem for your clients, your prospects, that we can then put into your funnel so that we can acquire customers at a profit so that your cash flow always remains positive. Because if you can acquire customers at a profit, how many customers can you acquire? As many as you want. So you can just keep going. This is what I mean. It's like most people will rarely get to the point where they have a traffic problem. Because to have a traffic problem would mean that you have literally exhausted all the current available traffic channels and you're looking for elsewhere to get leads from. Like if you'd maxed out Google and you'd maxed out Facebook and you've still got money you want to spend and you've got nowhere to spend it, that would be a traffic problem. Not many people get to that place. Some of the big companies might get to that place where they're going, okay, how do we spend more money so that we can acquire more customers more rapidly? We're struggling to find places to spend the money. That's a great problem to have, no doubt, but that's very rare. Very few people are in that kind of bucket. For most of us, you may not even have aspirations to get to that level. But so, you may just have aspirations to generate a 6-figure income. You may have aspirations to generate a low 7-figure income. So you're never going to hit that problem in terms of where can I find somewhere else to spend my advertising money? So it's very much the conversion problem, which means the funnel. So ideas for products, ideas for solving little problems that will allow you to put little products into your funnel so that you can generate a profit acquiring your customers. All right. Look, I think I'm going to wrap this up. I'm not feeling the flow as much as I do or have done over the last couple of weeks. So we've been going 20 minutes or so. So anyway, leave me a comment below. Let me know where you're watching from. Let me know if you've got any problems you want me to answer for you. More than happy to talk strategy, more than happy to talk skills, more than happy to talk specifics on whatever problem you've got and you would like a solution to. Drop that below and I will incorporate it into next week's live, which will be Friday, 10 o'clock, or as close to 10 o'clock as I physically can make it. So I will talk to you then. All right, I'm going to leave this for now, so I will catch you another time. All right, take it easy.